Okay, so we have our get logs action, which is going to make a request, get the data, dispatch to our reducer, and change the state. Okay, and that's going to change the state within the reducer. Now we haven't implemented this yet. We've just created the action in the reducer. So I'm just going to put a comment here. It says get logs from server. Okay, now in order to implement this in our component, so we want to go to components, logs, and then logs.js. Because right now what we're doing is just simply calling it from the component, which isn't really what you want to do, especially in a larger application. You want all of your AJAX calls to come from your actions. You don't want to do that within the component. The component should be nice and clean. It should just be the output of the state and any actions that you want to call. So from here, there's actually two things we want to do that have to do with the app level state. We want to get the logs, and we want to call get logs because we have to call that action in order to get them. So we need to do both of those things. Now, whenever you need to interact with Redux from a component, you need to bring in something called connect. Okay, so we're going to import connect, and this comes in from React Redux, which is again responsible for connecting the two together. And it's very self-explanatory. It connects Redux to this particular component. Now, whenever you bring in connect, you have to go down to the bottom here, and with your export, you have to actually export connect, open up some parentheses, and then your component name goes in a set of parentheses after, because this returns a high-level method. So this connect takes in two things. So first off, it takes in something called map state to props. If you want to get anything from your app level state and bring it into the component, you bring it in as a prop. So what we'll do here is we'll say const map state to props, and this is going to be a function that takes in state, and then what we want to do here is just set an object and then describe what we want to get from the state. So I want to get my logs, anything that's in the log state. So this stuff right here, I want available to this component. So, well, actually, all I really need, no, we'll get it. We'll just take in the whole thing. You can take in specific pieces here if we want, but we want the whole thing. So I'm just going to say log equal. Now log is going to be the prop. This is the name of the prop. We can call this whatever we want. But I'm going to call this log, and then I'm going to set this to state.log. Now this pertains to, in our root reducer, this right here. So if I called this something else, then I would call this the same thing. So state.log. All right, and then since that's a prop, well, actually, we'll do that after. Next thing we need to do in order for this to actually work, because right now it's just a function that's doing nothing, we need to pass it in here, map state to props. Okay, and since it's a prop, we need to bring it in up above here. So I'm just going to destructure and say log. Now this includes the entire state. And all I want to do is pull from that logs, which is this. I need logs and I need loading. Those are the two things that I need from the state. So I can just go like this and destructure out from logs, and loading. Now, if I wanted to, and you guys have this option, I could say logs and then from the state get logs, add that as a prop, and then I could do loading and do state.log.loading. I can do that as well and then have those two props. But I'm just going to say bring in the whole state like that, and then just destructure it up here. Now, we also want to add these as prop types. So let's go ahead and bring in prop types. And then down here, right above map state to props, we'll say logs.prop types. And we have log, which is an object. So we'll do PTOR. Okay. Now, up here, let's see, I'm trying to think if I want to do this. We no longer need this because this is now coming from our app level state. So we'll get rid of that. We don't even need to bring in use state. And then this get logs right here, we're going to get rid of that because we're doing that from within the action. All right. Now, in order to call an action from a component like get logs, we need to bring it in. So we're going to import get logs from, and we want to go, let's see, up, where are we? We're in logs. We want to go up 2 levels into actions, and we want our log actions. So we're bringing in get logs, and we're calling it here. Now, in order for this to work, we actually have to add an object as a second parameter to connect with any actions we're going to run. In this case, just get logs. Okay. Now, I think we should be just about all set. If we look at here, right here, it's if loading. Loading is now going to pertain to our app level state loading because we're bringing that in here. We destructured it. Down here, same thing. And logs is now going to pertain to this, which comes from our state. Okay, so map state to props is very self-explanatory. We're mapping anything in our app level state to a local component prop. And then here we're taking logs and we're mapping through. So we should now, this should work unless I'm missing something. So let's save that. Let's go back. And it looks like I am missing something. Cannot read property length of null. Okay, so what's happening here is it's null to begin with. Remember in our state here, logs is null to begin with. So we just want to make sure that it's not null because when it first runs, remember it takes a little bit of time for the request to go out and get the response back. So it's going to be null at first. So in our component right here, let's say if loading or logs is equal to null, then just let's show the preload. So let's save that and go back. Okay, so let's see, let's look at our state. So logs is still null. So we're bringing in get logs from our actions. We passed it. Oh, you know what? When you bring in an action and you pass it in down here, your action is now a prop. Okay, so it's actually props.getLogs. So I could add right here, I could say props.getLogs, or I could just destructure it. I could just throw it in here. So let's say get logs. Make sure you put it outside of this because this is being taken out from log. So let's go back, and there we go. So now it works. If I reload, you can see the preloader for a second, and then it brings the logs in. If we look down here in our state, our logs have our three objects inside. Okay, so this might be a little confusing if this is your first excuse me, if this is your first time ever using Redux. However, this gets really familiar. It's just you bring in connect, you export connect down here. Anything you want to bring in from state, you just do map state to props and bring it in. And you can bring in the whole state like we did, or individual parts of it like logs or whatever. And then if you have an action to fire off, which in this case we did, you bring that in and you add that as a second parameter. If I had another object like delete logs, if I wanted to call that here, I would put that in here. Okay, and then that's a prop as well. So it'll be props.getLogs. This is props.log, but I'm just destructuring it up here so we don't have to actually add the props. And then you just call, do whatever you want with that stuff. Okay, so that's the main workflow when it comes to bringing in Redux into a component. So I think what I'd like to do in the next video is be able to add a log. So we want this form right here to work if we actually submit it. Now, ultimately, the technicians are going to come from the database, but for now, I'm just going to have them hard-coded because I would just want to do the technicians after we get the log set. All right, another thing I want to point out is over here, you can see the actions that are fired off. or what's technically what's being dispatched to the reducer, in this case get logs. Every time I reload, you can see that that's fired off. All right, so this is fantastic, the Redux dev tools. All right, so that's it guys. I'll see you in the next video.